right. Well, good afternoon and welcome to our DMAC Ask a Professional event. We are excited to have you all here with us today. And we are excited to have Jay Groby with us today too as well from Morel. Our hope is that these events are linking your education and your career interests to businesses and professionals right here in Iowa. Before we get started, I just want to say a quick hello. My name is Jill Hoyk. I'm a part of the work-based learning team here at DMAC, and I'm just excited that you all are here today. So again, welcome and thanks for tuning in. Well, I would love to introduce our professional for today's event. Like I mentioned, we have Jay Groby with us today. He is a field service manager for Morel, and he serves more of the North and West region, and I'm sure he'll talk a little bit about that in a little bit. I do have a series of questions to ask Jay, but if any of you have questions, feel free to either unmute and ask that way, or of course, you can always leave them in the chat, and I can ask Jay that way too as well. But Jay, thank you for being here and giving us your time today to kind of learn a little bit more about your profession. My first question for you is really just your background of how you got involved in this line of work. Is it something that you knew you always wanted to do, or did it just kind of evolve into being a field service manager?
In full disclosure, and Jill, I appreciate y'all inviting me, and I really appreciate being here. So thank you all, and for those that are listening, this is kind of an interesting ride. So to answer your question, Jill, it's probably not going to sound all that great. I actually graduated from Iowa State, so nothing against DMAC, but that's where I went. I originally went to Iowa State to, I had it in my mind, graduating from high school, that I wanted to be a vet or a veterinarian. And my dad actually talked me down just a little bit, and he says, hey, why don't you try out animal science first? And that actually went really well. And as I was progressing through animal science, I picked up meat science and microbiology as well. I didn't know it when I graduated college that I was destined to go work in the food and the meat industry. If you got animal science, meat science, and microbiology, looking back on it, I think that's pretty pretty much says it right there. But to be honest, I spent about 12 years working in food manufacturing facilities. I've worked for pretty much all of the big names. Had a little bit of a hiatus, so to speak. I went to follow my childhood dream after 12 years. That was to become a police officer. I was actually a 911 dispatcher for about 9 months, and a friend of mine called me up and said, hey, you still interested in working in the food and the meat industry with Morel? And I said, yeah, sure. Let's go back and take a look at it. So here I am. I've been with Morel for almost 12 years now. I've progressed. I started off as what we refer to as a food technologist within our service team. That was pretty much optimizing equipment from both a mechanical, electronical, and technological side. Progressed throughout my career to essentially lead a team, and now I've progressed to field service manager and leading an even bigger team. So that's the short version of my career.
Yeah. And for those of us that don't fully understand, kind of the titles of different jobs, can you explain, and you'll probably laugh when I say this, your day-to-day operations? I'm sure it's different every day, but can you just kind of explain a little bit about what you do day in and day out?
Yeah, so my primary responsibility is overseeing. We currently have call it a crew of about 155 field service engineers right now. That's divided up. There's 3 field service managers, and we oversee the day-to-day, kind of call it the operations of those field service engineers. And the field service engineer's responsibility is for installations, break fixes, performance issues, so on and so forth. So when a customer is having an issue with a piece of equipment, obviously they call us, and we have the knowledge, and we send a field service engineer to help them fix the problem, whatever that problem may be. So my hour to hour, let's just call it that. I wouldn't even call it day to day, but my hour to hour is making sure that we have the right guys in the right place at the right time, as well as making sure that they're fully taken care of out in the field. You know, are their travel plans okay? We do a tremendous amount of travel, air, car, rail, so on and so forth. Making sure that they're okay. It's really about taking care of the guys. That's kind of my primary responsibility, is taking care of them, and then also taking care of the customer.
Awesome. And for your specific position, and then the ones that you oversee, what sort of education and training do they need in order to hold those positions?
Yeah, so the world of food processing is ever evolving. It changes almost daily, to be honest with you. I think the pandemic has shown us, typically, specifically with meat processing, a lot of that was hands-on. Morrell has, and even several years ago, Morrell invested heavily into automation, and kind of where, with the pandemic and whatnot, we're seeing a lot of customers kind of, I don't want to say getting away from all of the hands-on stuff, but Morrell has equipment that can do what a person can do, for better or for worse. Okay. I'll caveat that, but where things are going is we're highly technologically driven. We're highly automation driven. We're still going to have very basic equipment that needs hands-on, people to work on, but we're also heavily involved into highly skilled 6-axis robotics. So we go from very standard, very basic, to highly technologically advanced, and we cover all gamuts.
Awesome. Yeah, and just a little plug, DMAC does have robotics and automation and a lot of the programs, 2-year programs that he's talking about.
Be honest with you, I'd be interested in talking to anybody in those programs.
Okay, awesome. I will hook you up. So what would you say in your career, not necessarily even in your role right now, which maybe it is, what would you say your biggest win of your career this far has been?
Jill, you kind of sent me the preview on the questions, and I knew you were going to ask that one. You know what? The biggest win is, it really changes day to day. With 155 guys out there, my biggest win is making sure that one of my guys get a win. That's really a lot of it, because it is a stressful environment. It's not the cleanest environment. Travel, home life, family, things like that. I think the biggest win for me is when I hang up the phone at whatever time it is in the evening, that somebody got a win for the day, and that gives me, just because I had a bad day, or if I had a bad day, as long as one of my guys had a good day, that's a good day, and that's a win for me.
That's awesome. You sound like an awesome manager.
Every day's a new day. Every day is a new day.
We had a question in the chat. For someone with a physical disability, would this be a good career choice?
Yeah. So we can. There's case in point. I just talked about the basic machines to the most advanced machines. Morrell essentially has 6,000 active machine codes, from very basic to very mechatronical or electronical or technological. Physical disabilities, we can take a look at it, and we can work through that. We embrace it. Everybody has an issue here every now and then, so we can accommodate things.
That's great. So what would you say are some personality traits or just things that are common with people who work in this profession?
Yeah, so I think what I look for, there's obviously a lot of personality traits. The food processing industry has in the past been a little, call it gruff, for lack of a better term. They're very strong-willed and very opinionated. But when it comes to what we look for from Morrell, to be honest with you, we refer to it as soft skills, and it's how you relate to your peers, your coworkers, the customer. If you can talk well and diffuse situations well and take the good with the bad, so to speak, we can teach you how to turn a wrench. We can teach you how to work on equipment. But for me, it's the soft skills and how you interact with people that is more of what I look for. And I think that's what we all do. We're one big family. We all get along. We're brothers and sisters. Don't get me wrong, brothers and sisters fight. But at the end of the day, we all have to get along. So we look for soft skills in how you relate to peers, coworkers, and the customer, essentially.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you for bringing that up. I've done quite a few of these Ask a Professional events and even business spotlights. And when working with professionals and HR representatives, they all echo what you just said. So I think that's a great thing to kind of discuss is the soft skills and being able to troubleshoot problems and staying calm and all of that. So thank you.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So I know maybe this one's the next question is kind of similar to maybe your biggest win, but what do you find like the most enjoyable about your job? You kind of mentioned the people, solving problems, that type of thing. Can you think of anything else that you find like super enjoyable about your job?
Yeah, so I'm a change junkie, for lack of a better term. With what Marel does and what we look at, change is inevitable. I embrace change, and I think that's probably going to mirror a lot of industries, to be honest with you. What we did 20 years ago doesn't necessarily mean that's what we're going to do tomorrow. And if you are able to embrace the change, especially when they first come out, that's kind of where I'm at. So I'm always looking for new things. I'm always looking for new ways, because if you don't stay on top. And so change is inevitable. Embrace it, get behind it, help push it, help drive it, because it will become a part of your life. And yeah, that's the biggest one for me is change. And I'm a change junkie. I like it. I like looking at things, and what worked yesterday may not work tomorrow. So you got to make a change.
Yeah, I like that. And for those of you who are tuning in, I recently met with an HR recruiter from Marel. He was stationed out of Florida, actually. But your company is founded in Iceland. Is that correct?
Yeah, so we were founded in the late 80s by a couple of guys that were actually in grad school at the University of Iceland in Reykjavik. There was three of them. And really where Marel got started, actually Marel stands for Marine Electronics, is what it really truly stands for. They were the three guys that developed a scale that could accurately weigh down to 0.01 grams while it was moving. So it was really developed for the fish industry and on vessels, so fishing vessels. That way they could accurately weigh fish, very accurately, even with the boat moving. So that's actually how Marel got started. We've had tremendous organic growth. We've also incorporated other corporations. So yeah, that's from 86, which is where it was born in a garage in Iceland, to where we are right now. We've gone from not a whole lot of value to just a little over 1.5 billion in revenue. And we've got a big task in front of us to essentially double that in not so short a time.
Wow. Wow. And so you're over kind of the North and West region. So what does that specifically mean? Do you travel a lot for your position, or because I know that there's a Marel in Des Moines. So what do you, when you talk about regions, what parts of that do you oversee?
Yeah, so we pretty much took the North America and we kind of split it up into four, what we refer to as subregions: Northeast, South, and West. The West is the West Coast, everything from Alaska down through Washington, California, out into Hawaii. The north is, call it the upper Midwest. I like to use Interstate 70 or Kansas City, let's just call it that. All of the northern plain states and north, as well as all of Canada. The south is pretty much the north, except flip side of the coin. And the east is Nova Scotia, Newfoundland, that area, all the way down through the Florida Keys. So that's kind of how we divided up the four subregions. As you alluded to, I oversee the north and the west. Obviously, that's a big area. There is a lot of travel involved with that. I do have a counterpart to the south. His name is Rick Storms. And my counterpart to the east, his name is Chris Rohr. Ironically, all four regions are different in what we do. Obviously, we're part of meat, fish, and poultry equipment. That's what we focus on. The West is interesting and unique in the fact that Alaska and Washington is highly fish equipment concentrated. As you work down the coast, you become more further processed and some poultry equipment. The North is primarily meat equipment, so beef and pork. That's where a lot of our red meat proteins come from. In the South, I hope it's no surprise to anybody, but there's more chickens in the South than there is anywhere else in the world. So they're heavily poultry. And the East is very unique in the fact of Newfoundland, Nova Scotia, Maine, and down to about Boston is highly fish concentrated. There is some further processing stuff up there in that area. And then as you work your way down the coast, you hit a couple of meat plants, beef and pork. And as you work yourself a little farther south, you run into some further processing and poultry plants. And when you get to Florida, you would think that Florida is primarily fish, but it's not. It's actually what we refer to as cross industry. So there's a lot of smaller companies down there that call it steak cutters. They take big pieces of, call it beef, and when you go to Outback Steakhouse, your 6-ounce sirloin is a 6-ounce sirloin. That's what they do.
Awesome. That's great. I just learned so much. We had another question in the chat. It says, if I am hired in Iowa, how difficult would it be to transfer to other states and countries within the company? And then do you internally train for management, and would there be opportunity to move up within the company with hard work?
Yeah, so two completely separate questions. We're going to go with the first one first, then I'm going to ask you what the second one is. So if you're living in Iowa right now, and we could hire you in and you could work in Iowa, but you're obviously going to travel to other states. So I think part of my question, and if they want to answer that or answer this, they certainly can. If you want to throw out a geographical area on where you want to go, I have a pretty good idea of what our needs are and where. So, I mean, if you throw me that you want to move to Hawaii, probably not going to have a whole lot of luck with that because we just don't have a huge service demand in Hawaii, as an example. So those can be looked at, especially skill sets that we're looking for and the regions that we're looking for. Not to put a plug in for HR by any means, but we do offer relocation packages. If you have a skill set and we need to move you because that's where we need you, we do have that stuff. So we're pretty easy to work with in that aspect.
Yeah. And then do you internally train for management, and would there be an opportunity to move up?
Absolutely. We active within the field service organization, and I'll branch out here in just a second. We actively promote from within. Because if you get in on the ground floor as call it a field service assistant, that would be where most people start. We have 4 levels, field service assistants, and then level 1s, level 2s, level 3s. A lot of that is time and knowledge that you gain with experience with us. When you start talking the management levels, field service leads, field service managers, regional field service managers, morale is very rooted in looking at internal candidates, meaning people that already work for us, to help fill those positions because they're already fully in tune with what the business direction is. We don't typically look outside all that often for leadership and management positions. We want to bring from within.
Awesome. That's great to hear. what do you find most challenging about your role?
So earlier you asked me what one of my most fun things or my favorite things is change. One of the most challenging things is also change. Some people like it, some people don't. And the ones that don't like it, those are usually the most difficult ones to call it get on board or get on the ship. Um, it's really a lot of that really comes down to knowing your person or knowing the person. You know, Jill, I could talk to you one way, but your counterpart, we're going to have a little different discussion because of two different mentalities. So a lot of that is identifying the person, getting to know who they are, and figuring that out. So it's a little bit twofold. I hope I answered your question.
Yeah,
I feel like maybe I didn't, but yeah.
that's great. Um, to piggyback on what you were talking about before in the chat, they said that they don't know where he's particular on going. He just wants to be able to travel. So
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Right now, not to put another plug in for HR by any means, but our field service engineers travel 85% of their time. Some a little more, some a little less. What that essentially means is that 85% of the nights that you spend are most likely going to be in a hotel. That's going to vary. We don't have a Monday through Friday job. Depending on skill, specialty, equipment that you're working on, it could be Monday through Friday. A lot of our work is Thursday through Tuesday. So traveling North America is not an issue. As you start to gain experience with us, we do a lot of work with our European offices, obviously based out of Iceland. One of our bigger offices is actually Boxmeer, Holland, which is just outside of Amsterdam, about an hour. We do spend a lot of time in planes flying back and forth to Europe for training and R&D development work and so on and so forth. So we're pretty well connected with our global offices. Travel, if you want to travel, that is not a problem for us. We can make sure that you travel.
yes. So how many hours would you say you work a week then? And I know you said your weeks are a little bit different, but what would you say?
Yeah. So are you asking me as a field service manager, or are you asking me as a field service engineer?
Well, what's the difference? Tell me.
Okay. Yeah. All right. So in my position, I typically knock down probably 65 to 70 hours a week. To give you a little bit idea what that entails. Obviously, being European based company and living in central Iowa, we have time zone differences. So I have a lot of conference calls that start, 5:30, 6 o'clock in the morning, my time. And then I also have to take care of the field service engineers that are out in the field. And if they're working during the day or they're in a plant during a day, the evening is usually a really good time to connect with them. So there's quite a few days where I start at 5 or 6 in the morning, and then there's a lot of evenings where I'm still jabbing on the phone at 8:30, 9 o'clock at night. And for me, it's really two different things. The early morning stuff is work stuff. The late afternoon and evening stuff with the guys is the guy stuff, and it really kind of entails two different mentalities. That's just me. As a field service engineer, a guy that's out there in the field, typically 10-hour days is kind of what is. I don't want to say a goal. It's not a goal, but a lot of them, if we look at hours reported, 8 to 10 hours a day is a pretty solid number. And you start getting north of 12, I'm going to give you a call and say, you know what, time to go home, or go back to the hotel or whatever the case may be. So we do look at that. We try not to get overworked. That being said, we do get into the heat of battle where we want to see one through and get it done. So yeah, but that's what we see, 8 to 10, give or take.
Yeah. So, small question here. If you had to start all over again, would you change your career path in any way, or are you happy? You said you took that hiatus. Are you happy you did that? Is there anything that you would do differently, or are you pretty happy
You,
with
you know,
your choices?
I'm extremely happy. I don't know as if I would change my career path. I really can't, and I know that was one of your questions. Um, Looking back on it, and the relationships that I have formed, and the friendships that have bonded, and just being in the industry, and an industry that I know and understand, I really can't think of anything else that I would do. It is obviously mid-industry. It's gory at times, and it takes a kind of a mindset to get through some of that. But I I really can't think of anywhere else that I would really want to go. I love the people that I work with. We are one huge family. Like I said, we're brothers and sisters, and we do disagree at times, but we get along extremely well, and we value that. And that, I think, kind of comes back to the soft skills that I alluded to earlier, that to get as many people as we have, and the growth that we have coming at us, to get everyone moving in the same direction, you have to have that. That's the way I see it.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, just to be respectful of time, if anybody has any other questions, please leave them now in the chat. But one last question for you, Jay. What preparation or advice would you recommend young people who maybe are thinking about entering into a career path like this? Is there anything that you would give them as a suggestion?
Yeah, so a little bit of mechanical. We can do our best at teaching somebody to twist a wrench and put a bolt in, and things like that. Obviously, with where the industry is going and more automation, electrical is going to be more part of it. And it's not 110 volt, 220 volt, 480 volt, anything like that. It's going to be more on the controls side. PLC processors are in virtually all of our equipment. Input output cards, control cables, things like that. And that typically is where we spend a lot of our service work, is troubleshooting those issues. Because let's face it, water and electricity don't like each other. Obviously, with all of our equipment getting heavily washed down every day, we run into those issues. No matter how good a control panel is, you can never make it watertight. So the mechanics aspect of it, it's good to know, and we can teach you. But it's the electronics and wiring diagram following, is hugely beneficial at this point. And then if you're kind of a higher performer, and you want to look at the robots, and you can understand the mechanics and the controls, as well as PLCs and logic controllers, and learning logic controllers, the robots are an option as well. That's kind of my 3 breakdowns. I would love to give you a definitive answer, Jill, on you need this, and that. But with a portfolio as diverse as ours, from very basic to highly advanced robotics, I gotta give you all 3, if you see what
Yeah,
I'm saying.
absolutely. So like, if you were in high school, is there any opportunities? I mean, maybe you don't know this because you're not technically on the HR side, but is there like internships that students can do, or is there like high school students that work in some capacity, or is that a question maybe out of your?
Yeah, so I can kind of answer that. We do some internships within the office. Typically they're office-based stuff. Maybe some engineering, some mechanical, things like that. But with the equipment that we have, we typically don't do internships out in the field, just due to an insurance aspect. I mean, the equipment that we work on, it doesn't matter whether it's chicken or beef or pork or so we try to shy away from some of that.
Yeah, I understand. Absolutely. Well, Jay, you have answered all of my questions, and I just want to thank you again for your time, for being here today. I've learned a lot, and we will definitely get this recording on our webpage for others to view too. But again, Jay, thank you so much for your time today.